How long have you been in this business? How long has Aspada been around?
So Aspada actually grows off the back of an existing fund called SONG, which we manage as well. I'll say SONG is an acronym for the funders. The S is Soros, it was Mr. Soros, and this is the Soros Economic Development Fund. The ON is the Omidyar Network, Pierre Omidyar being the founder of eBay, and the G is Google. And this is a fund that was set up in 2008, of which Aspada currently manages. I've been associated with Aspada since around 2011 when we started to build off the back of Song and put the new vehicle in place.
And how much money have you raised so far?
So Song was a $20 million fund. Aspada actually is an interesting structure in that it is a company structure backed entirely by the Soros entity that I mentioned. And so we have ongoing and large commitments in the fund, but we don't have a fund close or a fund life. Rather, we draw down capital from the pool of capital that's available to us and invest out.
How are the funds doing?
I think they're doing quite well. And, especially given the sectors that we invest in, one of the things that we see in these spaces is that having the same kind of timelines, which you mentioned around, apps, high-tech IT, aren't necessarily realistic when you're looking at building supply chains, logistics, cold store, more nuts and bolts kinds of industry.
Right.
We have had some early successes in VC parlance that's generally defined as an exit.
Yes.
We have exited a few businesses. But in many of these cases, and I think given our company structure, we have the ability to sit in these businesses for a much longer time period. The closest analogy, and it's not really an analogy because I don't want to sound delusional, but is Berkshire Hathaway, right?
Yes.
Which is a holding company, of course, infinitely larger, but with the same kind of structure, right? Which is what we look to do, which is to take stakes in these businesses for the longer term and not necessarily look to exit in set time horizons if we can help grow and scale, large businesses.
And that's mainly because you have one big investor who's
we do. We do have the support
who's
of an investor that believes that these basic nuts and bolts backbone industries are important to build, both from a developmental standpoint, but also over time can become very valuable businesses.
Sure.
From the perspective of a fund manager, the fund constraint dictates that after, let's say, 3 or 4 years, I probably have to exit that business. And having spent that time trying to build a business, whether it's a chain of schools or hospitals or, again, something in the agricultural supply chain, that value accrued may perhaps come to a later investor. And so we want the ability, or at least the option value, to be able to stay invested in these businesses for a longer time.